Hey guys, Nike here, and I want to talk about where Power Warrior stands after the latest balance patch. There has been a ton of hype about Power Warrior being back, and there's actually some truth to that. However, there's still a lot of barriers and issues that can hopefully be resolved in a future balance patch, and I will offer some recommendations on how I would do it. So let's get into it. First off, Power Spellbreaker is able to achieve very competitive DPS now. As of the recording of this video, the best benchmark out there is around 34.5k with the Greatsword rotation, which I will say is unrealistic in a raid setting because it requires you to full counter on cooldown. And the one with the most realistic rotation, the Dagger Axe build, is a tad under 34k. These numbers make a pure DPS Power Warrior actually one of the upper echelon power builds on a small hitbox. For reference, Dragon Hunter makes about 32k, Hollowsmith is making around 33, and Daredevil is making 31 on small hitboxes. However, it's not all good news. Unlike the three power specs I mentioned already, Power Warrior requires a very fast-paced rotation that can easily be messed up. Without memeing too hard, it is a very high APM rotation, with a high degree of difficulty, which means that it is quite a bit easier to misplay in a real raid setting. An average skill player playing Dragon Hunter, Hollow, and Power Warrior will almost always achieve higher DPS with the Dragon Hunter. No doubt, people will say that it's nice to have a high skill cap option, and I agree with that. However, at the moment, is the risk really worth the reward? Most certainly, high-skilled players will likely do even better playing Hollowsmith than Power Warrior, especially in a group context. Compared to Dragon Hunter, Hollow, or even Thief, the Power Warrior has pretty low utility. The only utility that Power Warrior can claim is some boon removal and War Banner for quick resurrection. Compared to the blocks, boons, heals, and CC of the Dragon Hunter, or the power of pinpoint distribution on the Hollow, or the CC power of the Daredevil, Warrior actually brings very little utility to the Power Warrior. This is also ignoring the other small hitbox boss DPS options like Kandi Renegade, which brings comparable DPS, along with Might stacking, and Assassin's Presence, and group heals, and even Alacrity or boon stripping if needed, or even Mirage, which brings best-in-slot small hitbox DPS on a fun and easy rotation. Lastly, the Power Warrior competes mostly against Kandi Warrior, which has comparable DPS, an easier rotation, significantly more CC, and can even bring a banner at a much smaller cost to its personal DPS. What I'm getting at is, no matter what you see in Power Warrior, there are strictly better options available. Now, don't let that stop you from playing it if you enjoy it, and if you can learn the rotation. You'll still be able to kill any raid bosses using it without any problem. I'm just speaking here from an optimal meta perspective, or even someone looking to pug and be accepted in groups without really being questioned. There is just a really good chance that Power Warrior won't be widely accepted because, again, better options exist. Alright, so I want to switch gears a little bit and discuss what I think the balance team should do in order to get Power Warrior where it needs to be. To begin with, Power Warrior needs empowered allies, not only for its own DPS, but also for team utility. Hollowsmith has Pinpoint, Renegade has AP, neither of which come at much of a cost to their personal DPS. Power Warrior would have to drop either Spellbreaker or Discipline to bring Tactics and EA, which comes at a major cost to personal DPS. One option would be to make Tactics better, so it's not a total loss when compared to Discipline or Spellbreaker. That, however, has significant problems, namely, why should the boon, utility, and healing trait line have more DPS power pumped into it? The other option, and the better option, is moving empowered allies to either Strength or Discipline, which is what I recommend. Spotter, Pinpoint, and Assassin's Presence are in trait lines which would be integral to a DPS build for their respective professions, and EA is the strange outlier. EA should definitely be in a DPS-oriented trait line like the others, so should it be in Discipline or Strength? My argument is for Strength. If you put it in Discipline, you run the risk of making Kandi Warrior simply change to Discipline instead of Tactics, and the DPS increase to Kandi Warrior would be such that it would probably be a net overall loss for Power Warrior. So Discipline really wouldn't work. Moving EA to Strength, however, makes it a Power Warrior exclusive trait, which is advantageous because it gives Power Warrior a special niche option compared to Kandi Warrior. Are you fighting a big hitbox boss where you stack Weavers? clearly you would take the Power Warrior and EA. A small hitbox boss where you take Holosmiths, Mirages, or Scourges, clearly you would take Condi Warrior. This would create two distinct styles of play that each have a place where they are optimal without invalidating the other from the meta, and also, if they had to switch places, they're both okay in either place if you can only bring one. Thus, I think moving EA to Master Tier Strength line in place of the Power to Vitality trait makes by far the most sense. This would give preference to the Axe Dagger build over the Greatsword build, but from my personal perspective, the Axe Dagger build is more fun to play, so this isn't really a loss. The next item is banners. While I suppose you could always have a Condi Warrior bring banners, and that would allow the Power Warrior to not need them, it's suboptimal to have two warriors. As I said before, just good DPS alone isn't enough to validate Power Warrior. EA is a great start, but unless you're going to run a second warrior, you need banner support. Herein lies the problem. As a result of a dependence on peak performance, Power Warrior needs two utility slots dedicated to an otherwise weak and useless physical skill. But it does have a free slot, which is currently a Signet and could theoretically free up room for a single banner, but ideally the Power Warrior needs to be able to bring two banners. The best way, in my opinion, to get this done is to reduce the dependence of physical skills, which means a change to peak performance. Currently, peak performance gives a 33% DPS boost for 5 seconds after using a physical skill. I propose changing it to a 15% boost for 10 seconds after using one. This will lower the burst capability of the build, but it would raise the sustained DPS of the build, and it would have the effect of only needing to kick to maintain the buff, which requires you to free up the slot that was normally dedicated to Bull's Charge. The second free utility slot means that the Power Warrior can bring two banners without giving up more than 3% of its DPS from the loss of a Signet. Additionally, it lowers the complexity of the rotation just enough to put it on par with Holosmith and make it a more realistic option in a raid setting. So again, if these two changes are made, Power Warrior would be, in my opinion, in a perfect place, and those of us in the Warrior community would be quite happy. With that said, thank you guys for watching, and I am interested to read any thoughts you guys have in the comments below on this topic. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.